Hi, I'm Dr. Bruce Ruderman. I've been a practicing chiropractor for 36 years, and of those 36 years, about 15 of them have been with a technique called advanced biostructural correction, which is a little bit different than a traditional chiropractic would be. This all started about, I'd say 20 years ago, 15 to 20 years ago, when I was practicing in the Gray Bar building in Manhattan. We had a lot of patients running through the office, and we wanted to find out more about our practice and how it was running. And someone said, why don't you put out a survey and see what people think about you? So that's what we did. And after about 150 people sent back results, I was quite shocked to find out what the answers really were. It was not what I thought. It was not like, wow, we are helping an amazing amount of people, and everybody's doing so well and they're all getting healthier, and which some were, but the surprise was that about 20% of the people said things such as, you're great, you're wonderful, we love you, you helped tremendously, I had this problem my whole life and now it's gone. And of course, you know, who wouldn't feel good about that? So that was great. About 20% as well had a different result, which was, you know, the adjustment hurt me, or I didn't like it, or people are nice, but you know, I'm really not getting the result that I thought I'd be getting, and that's okay too. You know, you can't help everybody. So I was good with that. It was the 60% in the middle that really bothered me, because they said things like, really nice office, great people, as long as I kept coming in, I would feel okay, but as soon as I would stop, I'd feel the way I did when I first came in. Oh, that's not the same thing. So now what I'm finding out is that people are not really getting better, they're just getting different. And I wasn't getting the result that I think I was getting, or that I thought I was getting. So I used some time that I had to take off to find something that was different. I looked for something that would give a different result than I had been getting, than I had been used to. And I found it. And that was advanced biostructural correction. And what it did for me was it took the predictability and consistency and put it back into the office. People would get a consistent result. If they got better because I treated them, if they felt better, they pretty much stayed better. Now, it wasn't necessarily one treatment, and you know, you'll learn about that along the way, but people were getting better and getting well, and that's the exciting part. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about it, because what I found also is that after 15 years of doing ABC, both as a master level practitioner and as an instructor, that people who listened to what I had to say, people who really understood, who took it to heart and understood what I was trying to get across, were very consistent with their treatment, and they stayed and they did what they were asked to do, and they therefore got the results. People who would say, you know, I don't really need to hear that, and I would say, okay, you know, but you know, you really should, and they said, no, thanks, I'm good. Those are the people who would pretty much stay until they felt better, maybe 1 or 2 treatments, maybe 3, and then I'd never see them again, which is fine. I mean, it's not up to me what people do, but I like you to at least have the opportunity to make a decision based on really good information. So what I'm going to do is just give you the information of where it came from as it was given to me those 15 to 20 years ago. First person who contributed to this, Alf Bregg, Swedish neurosurgeon, who discovered through his research that it is not pressure on a nerve that is important when you're dealing with back pain. It is stretch of the nerve. Now that sounds a little semantic, but it's not. It's really very important, because the nerve itself has to be stretched for a reason. And without pressure on the nerve, you don't have that reason. So both things actually exist, and that's why the surgeries were basically working only about 30 to 40% of the time. So that was one. Second person, Dr. Gene Ward, out in California, a chiropractor who was doing great work. He was getting really good results. So he came up with a lot of the same things I did, where he thought they were doing better than they were. Found out from somebody that there's a way to treat which actually works better, and that is by standing up, working on a wall instead of on the table, and working in reverse. So instead of the bone being pushed downward on the back, it's being pushed from the front, so the bone actually shifts in the opposite direction. And he found that boosted his results to well over 80%, which is astronomical in medical terms. So that he was involved. Then there was one of his friends, Clint Fulkerson, who was a NASA engineer, biomechanical engineer, involved in making the spacesuit for the Gemini program. And he was requested by these people to find out how do nerves really work and how does the body really work as a machine. And let's see what we can do with this. It took him a couple of years. He put it all together, using x-rays, front, back, tops, and sitting, standing, and found that there is a way to determine how the body works in each individual person on an individual day. But it was way too time consuming, and you wouldn't be able to treat more than 2 or 3 people a day using his technique. So that kind of fell by the wayside. Then a last person came in. It was an engineer who became a chiropractor and understood both languages. He understood the engineering and the biomechanical engineering. He understood the actual treatment. So he was able to put together the entire system and into what we have today, and it works. You can't say 100% of the time, because nothing is 100% of the time, but as close as you can get to always, unless there are other things that are coming from, extraneous things that are fitting in. So that's what I'd like to tell you about now. So these 3 doctors created something that had 3 components to it. Number 1, bones move out of place all the time. That's how we move. But we self-correct. So what does that mean? You go like this. You hear a click. You hear a pop. What you've just done is taken a bone out of place, and you've used your muscles to pull it back into place. And it's fine now. So that's great. But you can't always do that, because bones will sometimes move out of place in a direction where no muscles exist to retrieve them. And so, for example, the big bump you have at the base of the neck, that's C7 or T1 depending on when you're touching it, probably T1. There is no muscle behind that bone to pull it in that direction if it goes out of place in a forward direction. So if you spend a lot of time like this, that bone ultimately and at some point will shift forward. And then you can't fix it because there's no muscle back here to do it. You can bring your whole body up, but that bone will never move back into place again unless somebody does it for you. And when your head is forward, and you see what I just showed you over here, a lot of people think of that as bad posture. And people will say, why don't you sit up? Why are you doing that? Why are you sitting like that? Don't you know how you look? And it drives you nuts because you know you're not trying to stand with bad posture. It's nothing you can do. You're not doing anything wrong. What you're doing is your body is moving into a position from which it cannot self-correct. Impossible. But that's the basis of what we do. For us to move that on you, piece of cake. That's the basis. So that's number 1. Now everybody will say, well, we treat that as bone out of place, but it's not in the direction your body can't self-correct. That's a really important factor. The second thing, muscle versus bone. Everyone's about muscle these days. And it's all about something went out of place, exercise, do planks, do core, the muscle's too tight, do stretching, do massage. But it's always about muscle. And in fact, that's not what muscle is designed for. In the design of the body, going back to Campanji and White back in 1905, Anatomy and Physiology of Muscle, we know what muscle is for, and that is basically to move you. You want to walk from here to there, you use the muscles, they move your bones, and you walk. You want to move this, all right, it moves. That's what it's for. Is it used to stabilize and secure your body? Well, you can, and it will do that to a degree, but it will not do that permanently. It can't do it every day. At some point, you just get tired. You stop doing it. You get older. You can't do that many exercises. You get re-injured. You can't do well. There's always a reason why it will stop working, and the muscle can no longer do the job that you want it to do, even though it wasn't designed for it. It's only designed to move you, but you're using it for that purpose. You can't use it for that anymore for any one of those reasons. Now what do? Now you're stuck. All right? So that's number 2. So we say, well, what would you do in that case? And what is our answer? Well, our answer is use bone leverage. It's just like anything else. If you take a stack of blocks and you put them exactly one on top of the other, like children's blocks, one exactly on top of the other, and you put pressure exactly down the center of those blocks, is it going anywhere? No. It's leverage. You have, that would be like wood leverage, stone leverage, something like that. But no matter what you do, it's not going anywhere. Take that same level of blocks, pull one out a millimeter, and do the same thing. Probably still okay. Take that same block, move it another millimeter. At some point, at 2, 3, 4 millimeters, at some point, you put that pressure down, it's going to collapse. So it's not about the muscle. It's about taking that bone leverage that you've just lost, reinstituting it properly, and doing it with the proper sequence. There's the third part. It's got to be done in the proper sequence. And you can think of it as a puzzle. If you had a Rubik's Cube, which I personally, if food were withheld until I got it done, I would just die of starvation, because there's no way I can figure this out. Yet I have seen 6-year-olds in my office who see the puzzle, which I have sitting on the wall, point to it, give it to them, and they go like that. And 90 seconds later, they have undone it and redone it. Okay, that's a good thing. But that's how sequence works. Because when you understand that I have to do this, which then takes me to this, which then takes me to this, when you have that, not so difficult. You can't sequentially look at what you're trying to accomplish and say, oh, there's a bone there. I know it's out of place, and I know how to fix it. Let me just do that for you as long as I'm there, and push that in. Well, was that the right thing to do then? Was it the correct one to do? Should we have done a different one first? Should we have ignored that one entirely because something else is going on? What they gave us, what these 3 doctors gave us, was a way in which to determine what's the first thing you need to do when someone presents to you with a bone out of place. Now, if you can't figure that out, you don't know what you're doing in the next move. Did what you did just now, did it fix the problem you were trying to fix? We don't know. If you did the wrong thing, are you able to undo what you just did? Do you even know that you can undo what you just did? So these are the things that are really, really important when you're treating a body, is figuring out, again, bone out of place in a direction your body cannot self-correct. So someone has to do it for you, period. No, as they say, chachmas, there's no, you can't do it. Next thing, forget about the muscle. The muscle is there just to support you, to move you, and when you need it to use temporarily for support, but not permanently for support. Go to bone leverage. And number 3, make sure you understand and can properly figure out the sequence of what you need to do. And then your treatment will be both analytical, engineering-wise, it's amazing. It just fits in with all engineering principles. It's consistent and predictable. And that's what we have to offer. And what we find is that when done properly, and there are some keys here, when the patient is doing their job properly, and there's a whole bunch of things about that. Actually, there's another group of videos that I created to explain that. When the patient's doing what they need to do and doesn't screw it up, and the doctor's doing what they do and doesn't screw it up, and everything's working just right, you do great. And once again, this is Dr. Bruce Ruderman, and I hope I've sparked some interest in you, and you have some questions for me. Feel free to call at any time. My number is 845-353-0019. And be well, and I hope to speak to you soon.